to ask you to do something that might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. For some of you, maybe you have never done it. For others, maybe it's been a really long time, but don't worry, there is strength in numbers. We are going to do it together. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, before we do the thing, because I'm super dramatic, I have a countdown. And I'm not joking, there's a literal countdown that's gonna play. And when it gets to 5, I want you to count down out loud with me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we're gonna do the thing. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Can you guys put the sound up on that? There we go. Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What I wanted you to do, we actually just did. I wanted you to pay attention to something for at least 10 seconds. So I teach communication. I'm going to do a little talk with you right now about social media and how we can use social media effectively in evangelism. But a Microsoft CEO found that the scarcest commodity of the near future will be human attention. Microsoft found that since the year 2000, or since the mobile revolution began, human attention span had dropped from 12 seconds to 8 seconds. By the way, a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. So how in the world, go do evangelism. Go do evangelism in a world where our attention span is 8 seconds long. How do we enter this type of marketplace that is actually a marketplace that is constantly vying for human attention? I want to talk to you today because right now I am making an investment in you, using one of humanity's oldest, renewable, and most valuable resources, words. It has been here for a very long time. I don't think it's going anywhere, but what I want you to start thinking about, because what I do is communication. I'm going to say this. I don't think the church has a theological problem. I think we largely have a communication problem. We have to be, friend, intentional with our words in evangelism. And oftentimes, we will say things like, well, I'm just speaking the truth. What is truth without a spirit of truth? What are the words that we are saying to other people? The barrier to entry in the marketplace has never been lower. An 8-year-old kid can now log onto social media, the online marketplace of ideas, and just position themselves in the economic exchange of words. And next thing you know, you are arguing on Twitter back and forth, and you have no idea that you are arguing with a 12-year-old kid. But that's how low the barrier to entry is. For over 15 years, I have studied how we use language to exchange ideas. And for over a decade, I've been training the next generation of leaders on how to capitalize off of those investments. And what I want to do with you today is learn how we can enter the marketplace. How do we enter a place that is constantly vying for attention? Arguably, there have never been more options of things to take your attention toward. How does the church enter a conversation like that? Just so you know, we produce 12,000 to 40,000 thoughts a day, and 70 to 80% of those are negative. The average person has 9,600 to 32,000 negative thoughts a day. That means conservatively at your job or in your ministry life, you are combating over 3.5 million negative thoughts per year. No wonder this is so exhausting. No wonder this is so we aren't just entering a marketplace of attention when we get online. We're doing it in our own minds, battling our own thoughts. And then we say things like, go serve, while I'm battling 3.5 million negative thoughts a year. Go be a content creator, Go change the world. I don't believe we can do any of those things if we aren't being intentional with language, first within ourselves, and then with the people that we are trying to serve and reach. The average person will only speak 16,000 words per day. So may the Lord lead us together right now to use this investment wisely. May we be faithful. 2 Corinthians 3:2-3 says, you yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everyone. You show that you are Christ's letter delivered to us, not written with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. That's what we are. Every room, I say this all the time, the church is not a place you go. The church is who you are in this world. You are church. And every space, here's the deal. This is why you're here. When my students say, why are we here? Here's why you're here. To create sacred space. Every room you enter, God enters through the temple that is you, because it's written on human hearts, not tablets of stone. May we claim, my friends, holy ground all across North America as we enter the marketplace. So a little bit about the marketplace right now. Gen Z, born mid-1990s, includes more than 2 billion people worldwide. It's the most racially diverse generation, with half of the population identifying as non-white. It's also the most global generation to date. An 8-year-old in the United States is likely to have more in common with an 8-year-old in India than a 65-year-old in their own country. Something to understand about the marketplace that you're entering: 50% of Gen Z don't believe in gender constructs, with 1 in 5 identifying as LGBTQ. A paper published by a professor of the University of Massachusetts that analyzed data from 6.7 million YouTube users found that we abandon videos once we hit a 2-second delay. And I want you to think about, what are the ramifications of an entire generation that has been trained to abandon whatever I am doing if I experience any delay? And yet we serve a God, and y'all know this, of process. Not product, process. How do we train this next generation to be committed to the process that is required to have an intimate relationship with God? Something to know about Gen Z too: they crave constant and immediate feedback. They are the least likely to watch TV because they view videos online. 70% report spending 2 hours of each day watching online videos through social media. Gen Z has been raised in a world of favorites and likes. They need regular affirmation and believe their opinions need to be heard. It used to be, I think, therefore I am. Today it is, I share, therefore I am. I feel most alive, most at peace, most fulfilled when I am sharing. I'm just going to say this to you because I have your attention for a little bit here. I'm going to use my investment to speak on behalf of the next generation. We need to be thinking about what evangelism looks like for a generation like this. Everything they do, they participate in. But when I go to church, sit down, be quiet, and listen to me. How are we changing our evangelism to meet the actual marketplace that exists? Not what we wish exists, what God has actually placed in our hand. And praise the Lord, it is a God who has planned for every single moment of your life. Coined the I generation, whether they want information, entertainment, or pornography, they can have it in the palms of their hands within moments, and usually for free. The Barna Group did a study on Christian teens who said church was not important to them. Among those who say attending church is not important to them, 3 out of 5 said the reason is because I can find God elsewhere. Well, this is why I believe every single church should be investing in what you are doing online. How are you entering the online economic exchange of ideas? Social media, welcome to elsewhere. There have arguably never been more differences in our society, and social media allows us to engage in mass communication like never before. Every single person has access to the marketplace of ideas, and I believe it is crucial for the church to have a presence there. Let me just share this part with you, and then we're going to go into some stuff on social media. This is something Ty Gibson shared with me. And I loved it as a communication person. Revelation 12:7 says, and there was war in heaven. Ty says the word for war used is polemos. It is derived from polemic, which is where we get our word politics. So remember, when it's war in heaven, it is not a battle of might and strength and weapons. It's a battle of words in the economic exchange of ideas. It is a battle of argumentation. Polemics is the practice of argumentation. How are we effectively going to war in a marketplace of ideas? I believe the church has to take a stand in this space. 2 Corinthians 10:3-5. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. Paul says we demolish arguments. We are trained in words and ideas and communication, and we know how to effectively capture attention.
Hoje, o ser humano, o homem, não pode mais lutar com arma, para alguém te ouvir. A tua arma é a tua voz. A tua arma é teu amor. A tua arma é a tua humildade, a tua paciência. Essa arma que destrói, sabe, ela não constrói. Sabe, nada vem, ela só serve para destruir. Ninguém mais tem medo. Ninguém pode morrer, mas você não muda. Então a gente precisa lutar com outras armas, usar novas estratégias, né? E essa estratégia desse novo tempo, essa arma, é a nossa voz, as nossas alianças.
The average person will only speak 16,000 words per day. May the Lord lead us as a church to collectively use our investments wisely. Let's look at social media. Time to reach 50 million users. It took the radio 38 years. It took the television 13 years. It took the internet 4 years. Facebook, 100 million users in under 9 months. A drastic difference. Social media is the #1 online activity in the world. 94% of companies use LinkedIn as their primary recruiting tool. 71% of our purchases are due to something we saw online, on our feeds. Rule #1 for social media. I teach social media at Andrews University. Rule #1, social media is social. If you are using it as a bulletin board, you are not using it correctly. It is a social system that is based on building community and relationship with your audience. By the way, YouTube is the second most visited website in the world and one of the only platforms that is used by every age demographic. I have avoided YouTube my entire career. I've just invested in a camera to start entering into the YouTube space, and this is why it is the second most visited website. In a world where everything is run by algorithms, I have very little say in who sees my content. YouTube is a search engine, which means people get to look for what you deliver. We should all be thinking about how are we effectively using YouTube. 1 billion people use Instagram every month. 500 million people use Instagram stories every day. So now I'm going to give you just some light hacks on how to use social media effectively, okay? Instagram will favor you in the algorithm if you use as many features as possible. The stories, the lives, the polls. It's also an aesthetic space. It is hard to do well there if you don't have an eye for aesthetic. So I would absolutely, if that is not your gifting, you ask somebody whose gifting it is. How are we using our Instagram effectively? Also, in the marketplace of attention, for the first time since social media has existed, all of a sudden in like the last 10 months, video is king. So think through, if whatever you want to say, how do you say it in a video? I have a newsletter that I send out every single Friday night, and I've just now realized, I'm reaching people, of course, through this newsletter, but I have to do a video. Because there are people that will watch the video that would never read 500 words. How are we understanding that video is king? And how are we actively trying to capture attention based on what we know? If being on video isn't your gifting, find someone in the church or on staff who does have that gifting. By the way, your online persona should be an extension of your offline persona. We are not catfishing people into our services. We are not creating a social media presence online that then I'm showing up in your church and I'm like, well, I see all these different people online, but then I go to the church and there's only ever one person speaking, right? Don't offer online what you aren't offering in person. How can you integrate more people into your service? This allows you to then integrate more people online so that when I come to your church, it feels, oh my goodness, I've seen that person before. I've seen that person before. I've seen that person before. I feel like I know these people. You can create content that is message focused rather than person focused. So let's say, and this is like fine. I don't know why. I don't know what happens where it's like everybody has to act like a gift that isn't theirs is suddenly theirs. It's okay. It doesn't mean anything about who you are as a pastor or who you are as a missionary or who you are as serving the church. If being on camera isn't your gifting, who cares? Find people who it is their gifting and think through what are things that we can do that would be message focused that we can put out. How do we create content that is centered on spiritual disciplines that maybe people are looking for? Or on biblical literacy, or real questions members are asking. That allows you to open up who is being seen on your social media feed, so it's not just sermon clips. It's great to use sermon clips. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But how are we creating other message-focused content? If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I don't belong to the body, it is not for that reason any less a part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I don't belong to the body, it is not for that reason any less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But as it is, God has arranged each one of the parts in the body just as he wanted. And if they were all the same part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. Or again, the head can't say to the feet, I don't need you. Instead, God has put the body together so that there should be no division in the body, but that the members would have the same concern for each other. So if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. If one member is honored, all the members rejoice with it. How are we using the body of Christ? And I really believe in our services and in our online presence. Only focus on Instagram if you are trying to reach a young adult audience, because that's where they are. 35 and under is on Instagram. If your audience that you're trying to reach is over 35, you're really wanting to use Facebook or Twitter. Your IG stories should tell a story. Remember that in general, only 10% of your followers are ever seeing your posts. So you never have to feel bad if I'm putting something out there and there's only like 2 likes on it. Well, that's because only 10% of how many people are following your page are even ever seeing your content, right? This is a business, and they're trying to make money, and so they want you to pay for ads. But there are some things that we can do to build up space. We call it like a snowball in the algorithm. So the algorithm will respond to what you build. Think of it as a snowball rolling down a snowy hill. So one of the first things that you can do is just create content consistently. You're adding more to that space so that the algorithm starts recognizing you as an active participant in the community. What is viral content? Viral is something that is shared widely. This is one of the reasons people don't like social media, is because joy moves faster than sadness or disgust. And y'all know nothing moves quicker online than rage, right? But I have really good news for you in the church, because I think sometimes people will just use this as a cop-out or an excuse, and they'll say, well, I don't need to worry about social media because everybody's just angry there. Well, guess what, friend? According to Jonah Berger, the one emotion that outpaced anger in viral content in Berger's study was awe. The feelings of wonder and excitement that come from encountering great beauty or knowledge. As for me, if I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people to myself. It is still true in a world where over 3.5 million negative thoughts are being had by a single person in a year, that if I see or hear something beautiful, I'll stop and I'll gaze. How are we collectively thinking about how to put out messages that inspire hope and awe and beauty? So here's some attention strategies for posting content on TikTok, IG, and Facebook. I'm going to use an acronym called VIRAL, and we'll go through. So the first thing you want to think about, how to make viral content. By the way, so I teach social media. I've been teaching this class for about 5 years. My rule for my students is, if you go viral throughout the course of the semester, I will not make you take the final exam. I have been teaching this course for about 5 years. I have never had a class take the final exam. It is a lot easier to create viral content than you would think. There are some, I'm going to tell you right here, there are some practices and tools. It's just a snowball. It's like a mathematic equation. So first thing you want to do is visuals. Pay attention to the aesthetics. Who is on camera? What fonts are popular? Can this be a video, this message that I'm posting? And I would switch people. In my class, I force everybody. It's just interesting how some students who are super shy and you would think wouldn't do well on camera just thrive, become a whole new person when they're on camera, and it's awesome. The last viral video my students just created last week was with a girl who hates social media, wants nothing to do with being online, and she just nailed it. She did so good. So switch around who on staff or who in your church, what leaders, and put them in positions that maybe they would think aren't for them. Interrupt. Okay, social media is about attention interruption. How you just have to think about it this way. How do I get you to stop doing this? How do I get you to stop your scroll? What is my first line that will force someone to interrupt their scroll? You only have 1 to 2 seconds to get someone to stop. So I always say to people, what is the first line that comes? There's a reason when I got up here, the first thing I said to you was, I'm going to ask you to do something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. I was trying to get you off your phone. I always assume if I stand somewhere and speak that there is something in your pocket that feels much more pressing than anything I'm going to say to you on stage. So I make sure that the first words that come out of my mouth are something that will interrupt your ability to scroll. We do it in public speaking. It's the practice of argumentation, but you also want to do it with communication messages online. I'm telling you, sit in a group, get 5 of you. This is what we do with my students, and we just throw out ideas. How can we say this message in a way that will interrupt what somebody is about to do? Reach. How do I create content that has the furthest reach? Discovery algorithm. So when social media was first created, it was a social graph algorithm, which meant it was only showing you content to people who were connected to you socially. The discovery algorithm, it's TikTok. TikTok has changed all of the social media platforms, where now everything that you post, as you know, could be seen by people who have no connection to you whatsoever, right? So you want to think that through as you're posting content. How do we reach? Of course, we want to reach the people in our church, but what do the people in our church have in common with people in DC or people in New York, right? And there's certain commonalities on biblical concepts that you can phrase things as to make the furthest reach. Action. What am I wanting people to take away? How is the content going to make them respond? What about my caption makes people want to comment? Friends, if there's anything you walk out of here that you start doing, always tell people what you want them to do. And it feels dumb and it feels silly, but I know if I post, I do a carousel post every single Friday night of my newsletter. And I always do, in that carousel post, I say, put a heart if this was for you. It sounds stupid, it sounds dumb, but I'll have 100 comments of hearts. And I promise you, I would not have had those comments had I not told them to do it. Always tell people what you want them to do, because the way, I'm sure you know this, but the way social media works is every single comment then raises you back in the algorithm to put you out to somebody else. So that's why you need things in your captions that forces people to comment or makes them think about commenting. And then, of course, you always want to respond to that comment, because every response you make now puts me back at the top of the algorithm. I couldn't choose, so I said learn, laugh, love, linger. I'm really trying to get at emotion. What emotion am I trying to evoke through this content? It should always hit one of these L's. So that's our viral acronym. I'm just going to touch on Twitter for a second. I know it's called X now. 80% of tweets come from 10% of users. The most active users on Twitter have 20 times as many followers than inactive users. What does that mean? Really, I'm a teacher. Tell me. What does that mean? Yeah, right? Like he said, the more you tweet, the better you do. Yes, that's why I'm saying part of it is just being consistent in entering the marketplace, consistent in showing up. You will gain people just by being more social. Of course, videos should always be uploaded directly to the platform. You understand that this is a business. It's an attention economy. Twitter or Instagram or Facebook does all the, these tech companies are hiring PhD social psychologists to try to figure out how to mine people's attention. They are absolutely addictive on purpose. Facebook is not just blue. That wasn't just like a design choice. That was a psychological choice because I have lower respiratory movements in blue lights. Everything is intentional. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations, right? So I don't ever want you to leave my app. So if you put a link, let's say you post a link to your church sermon from YouTube and you post it onto Facebook and you're like, I don't understand why we don't have any likes. Because Facebook is not going to advertise you telling people to leave Facebook to go to YouTube. That's what you're doing when you post a link. So you always have to upload the video directly into Facebook. And now, because video is king, now Facebook is going to say, okay, we'll show this to people. We'll put this out into the algorithm. We'll see if people pick it up. Video is king across all platforms. Photos are raised in the algorithm. So here's the order. You should write this down. So video is number one. If I'm going to post, I want to post in a video. Okay. If I'm not going to use a video, the next thing that you would do is photos. Photos are always raised over direct text. Carousels when I have a photo dump, I have multiple photos in a post, that you would do a carousel over a singular post. And the algorithm, this is interesting that I think a lot of people don't know. One of the easiest ways to have viral content is just to have a lot of faces in the video. The algorithm actually responds to more faces and then will raise you up in the algorithm for other people to view. So, and that's why I'm saying to you, it is actually, you're hurting yourself to only have one singular person every single time in the video. We go viral every semester because I have a class and I have all of them show up in the content, and then the algorithm favors them, and it works. Always use trending audio. Social media is not, this is often how churches use it, it's not supposed to be a bulletin board for your events, right? You have to think about it as inviting people into a conversation, and you're in charge of the conversation. So what do you think people should be talking about? What questions, maybe you're doing surveys in the church asking people, sometimes for sermon series, right? You'll ask people, what are the things that you're interested in studying? So then I would have like a group of people say, hey, what are the things people said they wanted to study? And then we talk through what those are on the video that then we post directly online. All ads should be in the comments, not put into a post. Social media is first and foremost about building community. Community is defined as the collective participation of members who together create community. Being effective on social media is about being effective at engaging and creating community. So what do we know? That social media is social. We know that video is king. We know that viral is about visuals, interruption, reach, action, learn, love, laugh, linger. And we also know that nothing goes viral faster than awe. Friends, you yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everyone. You show that you are Christ's letter, delivered by us, not written with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on human hearts. Now, here's my action. If you want to contact me, you can use this QR code. You can also go to heatherthompsonday.com/links, and that will give you everything, my podcast, Viral Jesus with Christianity Today, my newsletter, and just ask me a question. That's great too. But let's be faithful in how we enter the marketplace of human attention. May we put out good ideas, positive thoughts, inspire people to still see beauty as beautiful. Thank you.